Hello, welcome to another session on Penology and Victimology. So, in this discussion, today we'll be dealing with crime prevention and crime control and the various theories of punishment as part of your Unit 1. So, before moving on with crime prevention and crime control, I want to say something which is really important from the examination point of view. You may be asked one question, discuss the different theories of punishment, and another question, discuss the different kinds of punishment. They are not one and the same. Never get confused. Please bear this in mind. The theories of punishment are completely different from the kinds of punishment. So the theories of punishment are which we'll be dealing with in today's class, and the kinds of punishment we'll be dealing with in the subsequent class under Unit 2 of Penology and Victimology. So now let us come back to crime prevention and crime control. So crime prevention and crime control. The crimes are not new to any society. They tend to occur quite frequently. So as we all know, crimes are not new to any society and they have been in existence from the time immemorial, and they also tend to occur quite frequently. The crimes may range from petty offences to heinous crimes. So the crimes may range from theft and pickpocketing to murder and rape. No matter what type of offence has been committed, it has to be curbed for the betterment of the society at large. No matter what the offence is, be it petty offence or the heinous crimes, but they have to be curbed for the betterment of the society at large. The methods that help in decreasing the crime and the rate at which the crime is being committed are crime prevention and crime control. So now let us look at what crime prevention is. So crime prevention means inhibit. Inhibit means the action of restraining, that is the action of prevention. So inhibit prevention of criminal behavior. So here we are tackling the crime by preventing the criminal behavior. The crime prevention is then generally done by stopping the social, psychological and situations that encourages criminal behavior. So first we'll have to encounter all those situations which may lead to criminal behavior. So we are preventing the crime from occurring by tackling or restraining or stopping all the social factors, psychological factors and situations where the criminal behavior tends to arise. So crime prevention means all those measures adopted to deter from committing an offence. So here we are preventing before an offence is going to take place. So the crime prevention means all those measures which we adopt to deter from committing an offence. So which create fears in the minds of the offenders and puts an end or restrains them from committing an offence. So crime prevention also refers to those methods that prevent commission of the offence before they are committed. The main goal of crime prevention is to reduce and eradicate the number of crimes significantly. So the aim of crime prevention is firstly to prevent from happening and also to significantly reduce the number of crimes that take place. The methods that may help in prevention of crime are moral education, counseling, frequent surveillances and deterrence. So moral education will provide morality in the human being, so that when moral education is being taught, a person may behave rationally, and when counseling is done, maybe it will help in tackling the criminal behavior, and frequent surveillances will deter a criminal from committing. When there are CCTVs installed, so a criminal would not want to commit because he knows somebody is there looking at him, and somebody may one day or the other he may get caught if he commits an offence. No bad. So now let's move on to crime control. Crime control is a measure that limits the commission of offense. So the crime control limits the measure of the offense, whereas crime prevention prevents, it acts like a prevention and it prevents the crime. Crime control refers to all the measures and methods which are adopted and which exclusively deal with crime and criminal after the commission of the offense. So crime control comes into picture only after the commission of the offense, whereas crime prevention, it is there in the first instance itself. So it will come into picture even before the crime has been committed. So the example for crime control are apprehension, prosecution and incarceration. Penology often focuses on the use of criminal penalties as a means of deterring people from committing crimes. So penology focuses on the use of criminal penalties as a means of deterring people from committing crime. So what penology does is that to deter people, it might levy fines on the person who has committed an offense, or probably imprison him for certain time, so that by fearing of the penalties which has been imposed on the criminal, and by seeing that he has been imprisoned, others who would want to do the same crime would refrain from committing such offense. And also temporarily or permanently incapacitating those who have already committed crimes from reoffending. So when we temporarily or permanently incapacitate or imprison a person who has already committed a crime, we are here controlling him, stopping him from committing further offenses. So crime control places emphasis on the power of the government to protect society from habitual offenders. So crime control emphasizes on protecting the society at large and aids the government by helping protect the society from these habitual offenders, and these habitual offenders are incarcerated or incapacitated so that they do not commit more offense. Crime control proponents believe that criminal justice should concentrate on protecting victims' rights and not on vindicting the defendant's liability. So the proponents of crime control believe that the aim of the criminal justice should be on protecting the victim and victim's rights rather than clearing the blame of the offender. Let's move on with the next topic, that is theories of punishment. There are 5 theories of punishment. They are Retributive Theory, Deterrent Theory, Preventive Theory, Reformative Theory and Expiatory Theory. Retributive Theory. So retribution means to pay back or make the offender return in the same way of the suffering of victim. So here retribution means it's like a payback, or the offender has to be treated in the same way in which he treated his victim. So if he has caused whatever suffering he has caused to his victim, the same suffering should be inflicted on the offender also. So this was in existence in the primitive society and was the main form of punishment. The person wronged was allowed to revenge against the wrongdoer. So the person wronged here can be victim or his family members, and they were allowed to take revenge against the wrongdoer or the offender. The retributive follows the principle of eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth, a nail for a nail, a limb for a limb, etc. So, and this was the basis of the criminal justice administration. According to Justice Holmes, it is commonly known that the early forms of legal procedure were grounded in vengeance. So here we can see that Justice Holmes also believed that the early forms of legal procedure were that of vengeance, and vengeance is what retributive theory talks about. So according to Salmon, the retributive purpose of punishment consists in avenging the wrong done by the criminal to the society. The idea behind this theory is to make the offender realize the suffering or the pain that he inflicted on the victim. The advocates of this theory plead that the criminal deserves to suffer the way his victim has suffered. So the advocates of a retributive theory, they believe and also plead that the criminals deserve to suffer the same way in which the criminal made his victim suffer. So criticism. Critics of retributive theory point out that punishment per se cannot be a remedy for the offense committed by the offender. So punishment always cannot be the remedy for the offense that has been committed. Salmon says revenge cannot be reattributed like bank account. Yeah, I too agree with Salmon, because definitely revenge cannot be reattributed like that of the bank account. Money can go today and come tomorrow, but revenge is not like that. It keeps continuing. It is never ending process. The main aim of punishment is to curb or decrease the offense in the society, but retributive is more like taking the vengeance and aids in vengeance feuds. So retribution is more like taking law into your own hands. It creates vengeance. It creates vengeance feuds. It is like taking revenge. Revenge is wild justice. Retribution is only a subsidiary purpose served by punishment. So retribution is nothing but a judicially sanctioned revenge. So the next theory which we move on to is the deterrent theory. To deter means to create fear. So deterrent means infliction of severe punishments with a view to prevent the offender from committing the crime again. So infliction of severe punishment, where the punishment with a view to prevent the offender from committing further crime. According to this theory, the object of punishment is not only to prevent the wrongdoer from doing a wrong a second time, but also to make him an example to others who have criminal tendencies. Like I discussed earlier, so what deterrent theory does is that it will not only prevent the criminal from committing further offences, but will also set him as an example for those who have criminal tendencies, so that when those people see him, they may fear and they may refrain from committing offence. Salmon considers deterrent aspects of criminal justice to be the most important tool in controlling the crimes. According to Patton, the deterrent theory emphasizes the necessity of protecting society. By so treating the prisoners, those others will be deterred from breaking law. So Patton believed that the deterrent theory gives emphasis on the necessity of protecting society, and also by treating the prisoners and those others who will be deterred from breaking law. So if a person breaks law and if he is sent to prison, so others with the same tendency or who would want to break law will see him and will deter from doing that. Severe and inhuman punishments were inflicted even for minor offences like pickpocketing and stealing. So under deterrent theory, severe and inhuman punishments were inflicted even for petty offences like pickpocketing, stealing, etc. The culprits were subjected to severe punishments, maybe death by stoning and whipping. So this was also prevalent in the medieval society, and this is still prevalent in some countries. So deterrent theory is followed even to this date. It was very much prevalent in the medieval India. When we take the Indian history, it was prevalent during the Mughal rule, and it is even present even in this day in countries like Saudi Arabia, Syria, etc. So the criticisms. There is a lot of criticisms of deterrent theory of punishment in modern times. It has been criticized on the ground that it has proved ineffective in checking crimes. The excessive harshness of the punishment tends to defeat its own purpose by arousing sympathy of the public towards those who have given cruel and inhuman punishment. So the harshness of the punishment, it defeats the purpose of punishment. So the offender here gains sympathy of the public because of the cruel and inhuman nature of the punishment. We feel bad when somebody has been whipped, or has been, if we pelt stone at somebody, we feel bad for that person, right? So here the person is also gaining sympathy because of the harshness of the punishment. Hardened criminals are not afraid of punishment. Punishment loses its terror once the criminal is punished. So the hardened or the hardcore criminals are not afraid of any punishment. So punishment loses its terror once the criminal is punished. Preventive theory. So preventive theory is also known as the theory of disablement. So according to this theory, punishment is based on the proposition not to avenge crime but to prevent it. The aim of this theory is to disable the criminals. The supporters of this theory recognize imprisonment as the best mode of punishment because it serves as an effective deterrent as also useful preventive measure. So the aim of the preventive theory of punishment is to disable a person from committing an offense. According to Peyton, the preventive theory concentrates on the prisoners and seeks to prevent him from offending again in the future. So the death penalty and exile serve the same purpose too. So if when a person has committed an offense and if he has been given death penalty or given exilement, so he cannot commit future offense, right? Because the person might have already been dead, or the person is sent to exile or has been banished, so he cannot come back into the society and commit an offense. In England, utilitarian like Bentham, Stuart Mill and John Austin supported preventive theory because of its humanizing influence on the criminals. The propounder of this theory held that the object of punishment is to prevent the offences. So the utilitarians like Bentham, Stuart Mill, John Austin supported this view because it had humanizing influence on the criminal law, unlike the retributive theory or the deterrent theory. So the propounders of this theory held that the object of punishment is to prevent further offences or prevent offences in general. So criticisms to the preventive theory of punishment. Critics point out that preventive punishment has the undesirable effect of hardening first time offenders or juvenile offenders when imprisoning them and by putting them in association of hardened criminals. When the first time offenders or the juvenile offenders are put in the association of hardened criminals, the preventive theory loses its base because they would consider these hardened criminals as an example, as their role model, and it will not prevent the crime from happening, but when they are released, the crimes will continue to happen. Reformative theory. According to reformative theory, the object of punishment is reformation of criminals. This theory seeks to bring about a change in the attitude of offender so as to rehabilitate him as a law-abiding member of the society. So what this theory aims at is that change the attitude of the offender and rehabilitate him as a law-abiding member of the society. Even if an offender commits a crime under certain circumstances, he does not cease to be a human being. Just because circumstance has made a person a criminal, that does not mean that person is bad by nature or he will not cease to be a human being. He is still a human being, and changes and reformation can always be brought to him. The circumstances under which he committed the crime may not occur again. So it is very easy to amend him, to change his behavior and to restore him back to the society as a law abiding citizen. So crime is a mental disease caused by different antisocial elements. There are mental cure of criminals which is essential rather than awarding punishment. So here we have to look for a mental cure and not punishing the offender. If the criminals are educated and trained, they will be competent to behave well in the society. This can happen more with juvenile offenders because the young minds can grasp things easily. So when they are treated and when there is a cure for their mental illness, or when we teach them, when we train them with good morals and rational thinking, they will be good citizens and they can be placed back into the society as a reformed and law abiding human being. So criticism. The critics of this theory state that if criminals are sent to prison to be transformed into good citizens, a prison will no longer be a prison but a dwelling house. So prison will cease to be a prison but it will be a dwelling house. So the last theory of punishment is the expiatory theory. Expiatory theory of punishment is based on morals. According to this theory, repentance or expiation by offender, it amounts to punishment. So if a person repents for the offense he has committed or expiates, so it amounts to punishment. If the offender expiates or repents, he must be forgiven. So whenever a person expiates or repents, that offender has to be forgiven. Expiatory theory of punishment was prevalent in ancient Indian criminal law. Expiations were performed by way of uttering mantras, fasting, or even burning oneself to death. Expiation means the act of expiating, reparation, amends, compensation, etc. The theory of restoration takes a victim-oriented approach to the crime that emphasized compensation as a means of restitution for the victims rather than focus on punishment. So under expiation theory, the victim has been restituted by means of compensation and not punishment. With this, we have come to the end of Unit 1 of Penology and Victimology. I hope you have enjoyed and thank you. Please do like, share and comment down below and subscribe for more such videos. Thank you.